Man, this place is gorgeous! Oh, hey guys, it's your girl, Baldy Nose Hair, back at it again at Tropical Resort with my good buddy Yapper. That's right everyone, we're gonna be looking at Sonic Colors this time around. But we're not just gonna look at Sonic Colors, we'll also be talking about Sonic Colors and Sonic Colors. But before we get to Sonic Colors and Sonic Colors, let's get to Sonic Colors. Previously on this retrospective series, we covered Sonic Unleashed, and if you haven't seen my video on it, in short, it was and still is divisive. However, the one thing a lot of people agree on is that Sonic Team struck gold with the daytime stages. They left a little room for improvement here and there, but they were phenomenal nonetheless. As we all know, Sonic Team has a bad habit of scrapping things instead of refining them for the future, so seeing them bring back the boost formula for another go was nice. This is also the start of a new era with a new voice cast and a new overall tone and direction for the series going forward, and I've already talked about my distaste for this era. But surely this is just the first game in the meta era. It can't be that bad, right? Right? Before we even make it to the title screen, we're treated with an amazing CGI cutscene. While it's not on the same level as the one from Unleashed, it's still full of energy, sporting a banger song by Cash Cash, Reach for the Stars. I'll be honest, I'm really tempted to play the whole thing. Should I? You know what? Fuck it. How beautiful. Unlike Sonic Unleashed, there's not much to Colors' base gameplay since this game is clearly targeted to a younger audience than that of the latter, but despite that, it still has its merits. As far as I can tell, they're using the Unleashed ranking system, which is a good thing. You need to go out of your way to kill a decent amount of enemies, collect plenty of rings, and overall just rack up a ton of points if you want that S rank. Colors, of course, introduces the Red Star rings, which give you a buttload of points that are placed in hard to reach areas. And the level design is mostly great at warranting aiming for a good rank, emphasis on the mostly. A lot of levels have great flow and are overall just fun to traverse, even with Sonic's limited controls. The original game was played on a Wii remote, which doesn't have as many buttons as a PS3 or 360 controller, so some moves had to be cut or repurposed. He can still run, boost, jump, stomp, slide, homing attack, wall jump, and air dash, but quick stepping and drifting are relegated to specific areas. I don't know if it feels more natural with a Wii remote and a nunchuck, but quick stepping with the left analog stick just feels wrong when you're emulating this on Dolphin using a PS5 controller. Honestly, the best way to play this game is Project Re-Rainbow since it's graphically on par with Generations and you can map the shoulder buttons to move Sonic left and right in addition to the left stick, so the quick stepping sections feel much more pleasant there. And as for the drift, it's done by using the boost button and moving left and right in its respective areas. It's okay, I guess. The drifting areas are fairly brief, which is good since I prefer Generations and even Unleashed drifting. Yeah, Unleashed drifting's kinda grown on me. Now, I discussed the slippery ground movement in the Unleashed video, but Sonic now feels heavier and with a slower acceleration rate. It takes a long time for him to run at top speed. The jump also feels pretty weird. It somehow feels like a double jump even before you well, double jump. As for the boost gauge, it's replenished and unleashed by collecting rings and defeating enemies, but Colors has you free encapsulated wisps, which are pretty scarce. Yeah, it's pretty hard getting boost energy in this game, and it's really not that fun to traverse without the boost. Another point goes to Project Re-Rainbow, since Colors Ultimate adds the perfect homing attack. When you push the button when the reticle is green, it gives you a little bit of boost. This helps even the playing field a little bit, keeping the flow going. It's also a nice timed button challenge that kind of scratches that quick time event itch, since the tricks in this game are oversimplified to mashing the X button. It also makes the announcer overly enthusiastic. But anyway, those aren't huge issues, just small annoyances. I'm still having a ton of fun in the first level alone. Now, can we talk about Tropical Resort? Each level is centered around the whole theme park location, with Tropical Resort being the entrance to the park, with hover cars floating by, accompanied with a cool view of outer space with palm trees here and there. And of course, one of the best parts about this game is the soundtrack. Each level's music fits the theme incredibly well. Otami-san never misses. After a couple of acts, we're treated to the first cutscene with Sonic and Tails entering the amusement park. From here on out, we're in the Studiopolis cast era, so Sonic and Tails are played by Roger Craig Smith and Kate Higgins respectively. Now, Roger is an amazing voice actor, and he's just a cool guy overall. He's incredibly talented, and he's got quite an impressive portfolio. He even went on to become a great Sonic voice, but unfortunately that's not the case here. He had a really rocky start.
Hey Tails, you missed the BBBE. Huh? Best boss beating ever!
Not that it's his fault, it's mainly due to the bad voice direction and the weird tone this story has. Sonic doesn't really feel like a character here, he's just a joke machine. It doesn't help that a majority of jokes he tells aren't funny at all. As for Tails, Kate Higgins is doing a good job for the most part. The voice direction isn't much of an issue, he's still just kinda inconsequential once again. Voice direction is also an issue with Eggman, but now we can actually compare how he sounds between games. He sounds more natural in Unleashed, but he just says every line in Colors in a very matter-of-fact way.
I'm having a bad enough day as it is. First that professor runs off with the Gaia manuscripts, and now the planet's coming back together.
Ran out of juice. Well, I'll get more. Lots more. And then I won't just control one little punk, but the whole universe.
This is the voice director's fault, but it's also Mike Pollock's fault because I hate him. Hashtag recast Eggman. Anyway, there's also Orbot as well as the newcomer Cubot. I've said before that I like them when they're written well. They can fit the role of Eggman's idiotic lackeys and they can be pretty funny. But boy, did they not have a good start. Orbot is perfectly fine, but Cubot's running joke with his broken voice chip is just so annoying. Now, those are really all the major characters in the narrative, but as for the narrative itself and the tone, well, Unleashed had a simpler cast which contributed to its grand adventure, proving that less is more. In Colors, sure, it's less.
Funny thing, it was first translating as horrible body odor.
But it's not more. The story is pretty boring, and while all the Sonic games for the most part felt like a late 90s / early 2000s kids cartoon with surprisingly mature writing, like, I don't know, something you'd see on Cartoon Network back in the day, Colors feels a little more juvenile. I feel like I'm watching Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures. And I understand this is aimed at younger players, but there's ways to do that while not being so irritating. Sonic Heroes took a step back from the darkness of SA2, and it definitely was corny, but it mostly played things straight and was somewhat endearing. Colors is just corny for the sake of corny, and as you might have already noticed, the cutscene animation from here on out is just embarrassing. The characters don't do much other than stand around and flail their arms as they emote with their eyelids rather than their eyebrows, which is something that's always bothered me. Unleashed proved that the modern Sonic model could be expressive if you animate him right, but Colors, Lost World, and even Forces has the characters feel very unlifelike. And on that note, what happened to the lip syncing?
Say you're going to destroy us and stop embarrassing yourself.
But hey, at least Project Re-Rainbow re-renders the cutscenes with higher quality models, which is a plus for presentation. It looks much better than the 480p pre-rendered cutscenes from the original, but man, I'll take 480p pre-rendered cutscenes over wonky AI upscales any day. Isn't that right, Yapper? Ah, hold on, let me pull out the translator. Speaking of wisps, Sonic and Tails want to investigate the amusement park, and they soon find out Eggman is capturing these small alien creatures called wisps, which can be used as a power-up. The
Laser!
wisp lets you aim your trajectory, and letting go of the stick lets you shoot through the air as a laser. Proper use of it will let you find a couple of shortcuts and secrets, and it's pretty neat overall. Now, a lot of the wisps are only usable in 2D. Wanna know why? Because this is a 2D Sonic game. I know this was advertised as Sonic's next 3D adventure, but more often than not, the gameplay is in 2D. Personally, I don't really mind it as long as it's not overused, which Colors unfortunately does. It just ends up looking a little lazy, and it's embarrassing when Sonic Team used to consider this game when Sonic found his footing in 3D. Like, no it wasn't. I don't think it should be held in such a high regard by 3D Sonic standards when most of its gameplay is in 2D. That just doesn't make sense to me. Besides, Sonic found his footing in 3D back in 1998, thank you very much. And man, some of these levels are straight up pathetic. There's 6 areas with 6 acts in them, which sounds great until you realize that means 2 real acts and 4 bite-sized filler levels that can be finished in under a minute. This is why I emphasized mostly earlier. One of them is just quick stepping and it ends when you push a button. Then there's also these god-awful spring levels, this one where you're just sitting on a button waiting for platforms. You get it, it's so embarrassing. But on a more positive note, can we talk about these level themes? I think these are some of the most creative level themes in the series. I already mentioned Tropical Resort, but these others are incredible. Starting with Sweet Mountain. This planet's full of giant donuts, ice cream, lollipops, legally distinct Oreos and M&Ms, and cheeseburgers, for some reason. The only out-of-place gimmick in this planet are these yellow piss cubes that disappear on impact. I would understand if they looked a little more syrup-y, but whatever. This level introduces 2 new wisps.
Drill!
And
Rocket!
These wisps are both whatever to me. Drill lets you travel underground and swim underwater, only usable in 2D. Half of the time it feels just like an alternate means of travel, it's just whatever. And Rocket is basically everything it says on the can. Moving on, the music is so delightfully bombastic with this brass going crazy as hell.
Baldy nose hair!
Ugh, that line was so terrible, I lost my appetite. So much for Sweet Mountain. Next up is Starlight Carnival, a gorgeous run across the egg fleet in space with fireworks and so many bright colors everywhere. You're running across a path made of light, being hurtled from ship to ship, even going inside every now and then. But I gotta say, this bit of automation hurts my soul. I missed the Unleashed QuickTime events. The 2 new wisps introduced in this level are
Hover!
and
Q!
Hover allows you to float in the air by holding the jump button, and pressing the boost button near a trail of rings allows you to do the lightspeed dash. Hover is another okay wisp, but the lightspeed dash is one of my favorite abilities in the Sonic series, so props to Hover. But Cube, on the other hand, is the worst wisp in my opinion. It turns these transparent blue cube ring doohickeys into solid blocks and vice versa. For the most part, the wisps do their job just fine and only break the pace for a couple of seconds, but Cube is the only one that stops you when you use it. It would be better if it was activated by stomping, but as it stands, I wish all the cube wisps would dry up and die. But if anything, the music is great at pumping you full of energy. It's just so stellar. Afterward, Eggman reveals he's using the Wisp's energy to create a mind control beam, to which he demonstrates on Tails, but this ultimately goes nowhere, so whatever.
Pay up, Tails! I told you he had an evil plot, and coming here was a good idea. There it is, straight from the horse's mouth.
We didn't bet.
Dang.
Hey, wait a minute, that was actually funny. Next up is Planet Wisp, the level they brought back in Sonic Generations. And I can see why. It's the Wisp's home planet, a beautiful green wonderland taken over by Eggman's construction site. Seeing the full field of grass and the cliff sides decorated with flowers as well as those plateau-esque trees, it's all really pretty. And seeing tiny details like this pipe dumping purple toxic waste in the water is really depressing. Also, man, can we talk about this pathetic Subway Surfers ass rail grinding? Unleashed introduced a more simplistic grinding since it was fast enough to make it all about reaction time, but now it's just really boring. I still think Sonic Adventure 2 had the best rail grinding in the series, having you crouch to build up speed, time your jumps, stuff like that. They can easily bring it back now that games like Shadow Generations aren't really about reaction time anymore, and seeing SA2 grinding with a quick step could be interesting. But back to Planet Wisp, this level introduces the
Spikes!
Wisp. This one allows you to spin dash across walls. It's probably my favorite Wisp besides Laser. It's nice and snappy, allowing for some cool alternate routes and level design. The music does a great job at amplifying the natural wonderland part, primarily using a piano with backing strings. Of course, we already know Act 1 is great, but I think Act 2 is criminally underrated. It's so funky. Aquarium Park is probably my favorite level theme. It's an aquarium. I mean, duh. And it's decorated with Japanese architecture. Going underwater shows plenty of marine life and coral reefs. It's awesome. I also kind of just miss water levels in Sonic, so going underwater here is nice, even if infinitely jumping feels pretty cheap and you can skip some underwater sections by boosting over it or using a laser wisp. Oddly enough, Aquarium Park doesn't introduce a new wisp, which is a little strange. But back to the whole Japanese thing, the music gives off those vibes really well. It kind of makes Aquarium Park feel like Dragon Road's sister level. And lastly, we have Asteroid Coaster, the last area in the game. It's delightfully dangerous, making use of a janky roller coaster, which I quickly got accustomed to. It's like Sonic Heroes rail switching, where you gotta slightly move your stick in whatever direction you want to go while pressing the jump button. But during 2D sections, only press the jump button, because if you touch the left stick, you'll overshoot and fall off. It also brings back some obstacles from Eggman Land, like the big rectangles that push you to your death and these disappearing light platforms. The last Wisp introduced is
Frenzy!
Or as Sonic puts it,
Strange, negative aliens with the freaky energy.
this one turns Sonic into a big monster, rocketing him forward and gobbling every enemy in his path. The Frenzy sections are fairly brief, it just kind of makes the Wisp seem all that more nothing burger-y. But can we talk about the music for a second? This is probably the most Sonic Adventure sounding track in a modern Sonic game. Otami is definitely channeling his inner Jun Senoue. Now, I don't really count Terminal Velocity as a real level, since it's essentially just a set piece before and after the final boss. But on that note, I just realized I forgot about the boss fights. There's 6 of them, and by that I mean 3 of them fought twice. Tropical Resorts is fought again in Planet Wisp, Sweet Mountains in Aquarium Park, and Starlight Carnival in Asteroid Coaster. I couldn't care less about these 2 types of bosses, though I gotta say Aquarium Park has the worst one since it's underwater. Also, Planet Wisp's boss fight brings us the most iconic line Sonic has ever said.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
However, Starlight Carnival and Asteroid Coasters are easily the best because they actually feel like fun encounters instead of embarrassingly easy or stupid. You dodge the cannon fire and repeatedly homing attack it, and your progress can be seen on the robot itself, with it looking more broken as you keep going, which is great. You can also inflict more damage quickly if you have the laser or rocket wisp, but they pale in comparison to the final boss against Eggman with his Nega Wisp armor, baby! This is a pretty solid final boss, and it's amazing. It shouldn't have been brought back twice, but I digress. This boss fight of course does the same trope from Heroes, 06, and Unleashed, with the first phase having ominous orchestral music, and it sounds great. Gameplay wise, it's on a straight line path with Eggman using a corrupted wisp powers to attack like Laser, Cube, and Spike. When he gets close enough, it's homing attack and boosting time. All sounds good, right? Now wait till you get to the second phase. The more you damage Eggman, the more wisps follow you around as you gain the upper hand, with the music switching to an orchestral rendition of Reach for the Stars. It's enough to give anyone goosebumps. But my only complaint here is that I wish the boss was a little bit harder or longer, because this music really is amazing, but the final color blaster shows up too early and we only hear a tiny bit of the song. Oddly enough, he doesn't even use rocket or drill, so maybe he could have used those to make the boss longer. But anyway, the wisps help Sonic make it back to Earth safely, the park implodes in on itself, and the
Strange, negative aliens with the freaky energy.
are returned back to normal. The wisps bid our heroes farewell, going back to their home planet, never to be seen again. Never to be seen again. So that was Sonic Colors. I'll be honest, I used to hate this game for a while. I was straight up not having a good time with it, but I gotta take into account that I forgot to turn on the 60 FPS hack. Yeah, it might be a little bit stupid. Overall, it's not as bad as I remembered, but it's still far from what I consider peak Sonic. For all the good music and simple yet fun gameplay and interesting level themes, it's plagued with a majority of stages being in 2D, terrible padding with too many levels that last under a minute, a juvenile tone, bad voice direction, and a boring story. It's also really short, with the average Sonic game lasting around 9 to 12 hours, with Colors being about 2 hours. Yeah, I managed to beat this game in one sitting, but if you compare it to the likes of 06 and Secret Rings, it definitely looks like a masterpiece, and I can see why it used to be so highly praised 15 years ago. Wait, 2010 was 15 years ago! But overall, Colors is a solid 6 out of 10. I'm just glad I never have to play it ever again. Yapper, what are you doing with the exposure settings? Well, Sonic Colors was definitely a video game that sure did exist, but now that we talked about Sonic Colors, let's move on to Sonic Colors Ultimate. In 2021, Sonic's 30th anniversary, we were treated with a remaster of the Wii exclusive for modern consoles done by third-party developers Blind Squirrel Entertainment. Now, Sonic remasters are nothing new. Bad Sonic remasters are a dime a dozen. Easy example, just look at how they massacred my baby Sonic Adventure. Worse physics, textures, lighting, character models. Yeah, I fucking hate SADX. Thank God for the Dreamcast conversion mod on PC. But getting back on track here, Colors Ultimate is everything I hate about Sonic Adventure DX, with even more problems. Even if we ignore the worst visuals and sound mixing, the newly added content just feels so unnecessary. Fortunately, I already talked about the original, so let's just focus on what the remaster does differently. Ugh, just look at this shit. They turned the bloom all the way up. It's the most noticeable in Starlight Carnival, but Jesus Christ, Tropical Resort is ugly. And as much as they turn the lights all the way up, the buildings in the background are shrouded in darkness. Comparing it to the original's more natural lighting, it looks very off. Sonic himself also has worse looking colors, especially on the skin areas. And to top it all off, whenever you're boosting, they smear a heavy layer of Vaseline on the screen, making it hard to see anything when you're boosting. Other minor things that piss me off are these disappearing assets in Tropical Resort, as well as them adding a water distortion effect to the entire screen when Sonic is underwater. And of course, AI upscaled cutscenes. The artifacts are very noticeable and very ugly. I also beat this game in one sitting, and afterward I had a splitting headache. What is it with game companies half-assing remasters and making the games look worse than the original release? Oh, Sonic Colors Ultimate. You're no Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection. And not only is the remaster worse visually, but audibly too. I mentioned the perfect homing attack earlier, and while I think it's a nice addition, the sound effect that plays is really loud. Some sound effects randomly get really loud too, like this park token in Sweet Mountain. Or the mini-boss explosion at the end of Asteroid Coaster. Sometimes the sound effects break or don't play at all. Keep in mind that this is all in the fully patched version. There's been a treasure trove of bugs and glitches in the day one release. Even so, weird shit like Sonic slowly descending from the heavens in Starlight Carnival Act 3 happened, as well as the walking animation in the level select area being really slow, but they still play the original footstep sounds. And I turned off the navigator in the settings, but for some reason it still played every now and then.
Uh-oh, that switch just released some Eggman robots.
As for new content, I mentioned the park tokens, which are a new collectible you can use in the new customization shop. This would be a good addition if it weren't for two things. A, the laggy ass menus with input delay, and B, these options are really ugly. The only ones I actually like are the chrome red shoes and the movie boost, but for jokes I occasionally gave Sonic piss yellow gloves and a stupid firework aura. There's also the Tails rescue feature, which is completely unnecessary. It takes the place of a life system, but that's really all that it is, a glorified life system, except now it plays an unnecessary janky animation. There's also the Metal Sonic rival races, which you can play to get more park tokens, but for some reason it didn't trigger in my playthrough at all. But judging by what others have said about it, yeah, it's another unnecessary tacked on feature with lazy menus and embarrassing sound design. And lastly, there's a new Wisp. The Ghost! Wisp is essentially hover, but you can homing attack through walls. Again, very unnecessary and not all that fun. You can tell the areas where you can use it are just awkwardly implemented in. Also, what the hell is this music? This sounds like something Uncle Aaron would cook up. Speaking of music, the remaster includes remixes for all the levels and boss themes. The new soundtrack is kind of a mixed bag in my opinion. Some are better, but some are worse. Tropical Resort and Sweet Mountain unfortunately got butchered. Tropical Resort just sounds worse in general, but Sweet Mountain's biggest sin is removing the brass. However, Starlight Carnival fucking bangs. It's just the original track but amped up to 100. Planet Wisp, on the other hand, while the original was a beautiful melody that accompanied the planet's natural beauty, the remix is an EDM nightmare. But back on the positive side, Aquarium Park is good. Different, but good nonetheless. I honestly prefer both versions of the song. Act 2's remix can die in a hole, but I kinda dig Act 1 and 3. Asteroid Coaster sounds basically like the original, so it's great by default, with the only difference being a slight chiptune bit in the background. Now, as for these last few songs, they did the brilliant decision of bringing in a special guest to redo Terminal Velocity as well as the 3 boss themes. And that special guest is Jun Senoue! But in my opinion, the remaster's biggest sin out of all is butchering Speak With Your Heart, the ending theme. Here's the original. versus the Sonic Symphony version, which is what they should have used, mind you, versus what they actually use. And that was Sonic Colors Ultimate, aka one of, if not the worst remaster I have ever played. I personally still hate Sonic Adventure DX more since it butchers a Sonic game I think is leagues better than Colors, but there's no denying that Ultimate is a massive downgrade in every way conceivable. Unnecessary new additions, bugs, terrible updated visuals, worse sound mixing. God, there's just so many wrong things with this game. If I were to recommend Colors to someone, and that's a big if, I'd either tell them to emulate the original game or download Project Rainbow for Ultimate. No one under any circumstances should play the vanilla version. It doesn't help that this game came out during the odd post-Forces pre-Frontiers period in the Sonic fandom, so this lazy, unfinished port made it seem like Sega didn't give two shits about the product they were selling us. And yeah, Blind Squirrel developed it, but it should be Sega's job to apply some quality control. This is just sad. Well, we have a very middle-of-the-road 2D Sonic game masquerading as a 3D game, and a shitty, lackluster remaster. Sonic Colors was dealt a shit hand, wasn't it? If only there was an actual good way of playing this game. Huh? This is what I've been personally waiting for. In my opinion, Sonic Colors on the DS is a far superior game than the Wii version. For a bit of background, it was developed by Dimps, known for their work on the Advance and Rush games, as well as the alternate versions for Unleashed, Generations, and Lost World. Anyway, when it comes to things like story and level themes, it's essentially the same as the Wii version, so once again, let's focus on what this game does differently. First of all, it's impressive as hell they compressed the intro to fit in a DS game. They even edited it to include the two Wisps exclusive to this version of the game. That's dedication right there. Gameplay wise, it's essentially the unofficial third Sonic Rush game, meaning it's a 2D Sonic game with loops and spin dashing like the old days, but with Sonic's modern moves like stomping, wall jumping in certain areas, homing attacking, sliding, and boosting. Due to the smaller screen, it's slightly harder to see what's up ahead, so it's once again about trial and error, something I really enjoyed about Sonic Unleashed, so seeing this element translate well in a 2D side-scroller makes me really happy. I can't really compare this game to Rush or Rush Adventure since I've yet to play those, but damn does this game go hard. As you're memorizing the stage layouts, you'll find more shortcuts and red star rings, and those shortcuts come in the form of rail grinding, homing attack chains, and wisp power-ups. The stage design is also leagues better than the Wii version since every level is a proper level with an appropriate length. It has a sense of progression, which is awesome. The devs also took advantage of the DS's dual screens by having the gameplay switch between both screens, offering for more verticality to these levels. They even add in new special mechanics for each level, like this hang glider in Tropical Resort, these rockets in Sweet Mountain, these piranha plants in Planet Wisp, or the T-Rex skulls in Asteroid Coaster. As for the ranking system, as far as I know, it's pretty much the same as Unleashed and Colors Wii, but the neat thing here is that the S ranks unlock concept art in the gallery. If I had to force myself to come up with some criticisms for this game, I guess precise platforming can feel a bit odd at times, and the homing attack reticle takes some time to trigger, but I don't really have any other criticisms. This game is solid as hell. Well, minus the drill wisp kind of feeling pretty bad to control. Speaking of, the wisps function basically the same, but new additions to the levels spice up how they're implemented, like these things that change the rocket wisp's trajectory, or these special walls that scatter laser into pieces. As for new wisps, Cube is replaced with Burst, and Frenzy is replaced with Void! The Burst Wisp allows you to infinitely jump for a short period of time, and holding the jump button will charge up an explosion, destroying every enemy on the screen. It's so much better than Cube. Void, on the other hand, turns you into a black hole, swallowing everything in your path. It doesn't feel all that fun to control, but I'll take anything over Frenzy. As for the presentation, it's gorgeous. From what little I've seen from the Rush duology, I really love their aesthetic and art direction, and Colors DS looks basically the same. The backgrounds and sprites look really well made, and I've always been a fan of Sonic's Rush model. Look at him, he's just a little guy. The sound design is also a huge factor as to why the game is so fun. Just take a listen to that boost sound effect. But unlike the previous two Sonic Colors I'm not going to be talking about the music that much since there's nothing really to say here. It's pretty much just the music from the original, but super compressed. They don't sound that bad, they definitely do their job in-game, but I definitely wouldn't go out of my way to listen to it as opposed to the Wii soundtrack, except for maybe the special stage theme. Yep, that's right. If you beat a stage with 50 or more rings, you get to play a special stage to collect the 7 Chaos Emeralds, which will give you an alternate final boss once you get all 7. This is a much better integration of the emeralds than the post-game shenanigans of the Wii version, which I didn't really care about, which is why I didn't mention it. Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, the special stages are essentially the Sonic 2 half-pipe ones, but you control Sonic with the touchscreen and you collect a certain amount of colored orbs 3 times. It's also better than the ones from Sonic 2 since the half-pipe is transparent, which makes it easier to see around corners. As gimmicky as the touchscreen thing sounds, it's honestly not that bad. In my case, I'm emulating, so I'm using a mouse to control it, but that and using an actual DS stylus are both valid options. And I should know because I used to own this game physically at some point years ago, though I gotta say the most tedious emerald to obtain was the 7th one in Gameland, so every time I failed I had to deal with this multiplayer versus computer level with Mario Kart ass disruptive items. Oh no you don't. Oh, and did I mention that the music gets faster when it's nearing the end? Much like the Wii version, there's a few smaller acts to play, but the main difference is they don't shy away from the fact with these levels having alternate clear criteria, like collecting a certain amount of rings or reaching the goal before time runs out. They're worth it for more concept art and seeing interactions between Sonic and his friends. Cameos from Cream, Amy, Knuckles, Rouge, Shadow, Omega, Team Chaotix, Big, Silver, and Blaze help flesh out the park a little, and they're characterized pretty well. Cream kinda just got curious and wandered into the elevator. Blaze's dialogue references Sonic Rush Adventure, and this is her first canon appearance alongside Silver after 06. Rouge was presumably hired by Gun to investigate the theme park, and she also tricked Knuckles into going to the amusement park, which is nice to see. Knucksuge is the best Sonic ship. Big, Amy, the Chaotix, and Omega are basically their old selves, and Shadow just wanted to make sure Sonic had what it takes to foil Eggman's schemes. I know the Wii version is the definitive version of Sonic Colors, but I like to consider both versions canon since all the characters are gathered here just in time for the next game where they throw Sonic a birthday party. Another thing to note is that the game is longer. The Wii version was 2 hours long, but the DS version is 5 hours long, and that's without the optional content. This game has some actual meat on its bones. On that note, not only is the game longer, but it's a little harder too, most notably the boss fights. There's still only 3 of them fought twice, but the rematches have enough differences to consider it okay in my book. The Tropical Resort boss fight is now the welcome sign. Captain Jelly no longer hides in his ship and instead sends his jelly bean boss at us for a direct confrontation, and Starlight Carnival's boss is a little more complex than a homing attack frenzy. Go away. I remember feeling really accomplished when I beat the Drillinator. It was pretty challenging. But side note, who the fuck named the Drillinator? Dr. Eggman or Dr. Doofenshmirtz? Also, some stuttering is present in some of these. It doesn't make it less fun, it's just pretty noticeable. And the last noteworthy thing is the new final boss. In Asteroid Coaster, Shadow shows us Eggman's secret project, Project Mother. After we beat the Nega Wisp armor in a much more climactic fight, we have the option to fight the mutated Mother Wisp. The first portion has you boost into these asteroids to launch at Mother Wisp, but the boost works sort of like the Burst Wisp since you gotta charge it up now. The second portion has you dodge her projectiles and boost into her eye, sort of like the final part of Dark Gaia's fight. Overall, it's still the usual bump into the the bad guy thing every supersonic fight's done pre-Frontiers, but I think it's neat. I complained about the second phase for Nega Wisp armor being too short so we barely hear Reach for the Stars, but the whole fight against Mother Wisp plays another remix of it, so yippee! And that just about does it for Colors DS. Again, this is a much better game than the Wii version in my opinion, and if you haven't played it, I hope I convinced you to give it a try. Its differences are really neat, and the amount of stuff that just builds off of the original is really cool to see. The gameplay is also just a lot more fun and consistent than Colors on Wii. I seriously enjoyed myself a lot more now. So, in conclusion, you can play this game if you want. I don't really care. Don't play this, for all that is holy. You will become blind and angry. But this game is a fucking masterpiece. Go play it as soon as possible. Finally, the Sonic Colors review is finished. I should probably get into the habit of saying this more often, but if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notif bell, and follow me on Newgrounds or Blue Sky if you want to keep up with my other stuff. I also do commissions on Ko-Fi, so if you want to buy some art, hit me up. Now, how do I get home? Yapper, any ideas? Wait a minute. You're not Yapper. You're the Laser Wisp.
Laser!